emotion that I get from you. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Yeah, give me your heart and make it real, or else forget about it.
But I'll tell you one thing. If you would leave it be a crying shame. In every breath and every word, I hear your name calling me out. Without from the body, you hear my rhythm on your radio. And you feel the turning of the world, so soft and slow, turning you round and round.
And if you said this life ain't good enough, I would give my world to lift you up. I could change my life to better suit your mood, 'cause you're so smooth. And it's just like the ocean under the moon. It's the same as the emotion that I get from you. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Yeah, give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it.
Optimists and guests, welcome to the opening ceremony of the 101st Annual Convention of Optimist International. For the pleasure of those around you, please silence all electronic devices. You really don't know or want to know the consequences if you don't comply with the request. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Centennial stage, Optimist International President Rebecca Butler Mona.
Merci. Merci. Please be seated. You all are awesome. Good evening. Bonsoir. Welcome, bienvenue, optimists and guests. It is truly my honor to welcome you to our Optimist International Centennial Convention here in Louisville, Kentucky. 100 years after the first optimists gathered here in June of 1919. How exciting. And I thought, when in Louisville, right? So we'll see. How do you like it? Does it work? All right, good. Many thanks to all of you for joining us, and truly our deepest gratitude to the optimists who are involved in our convention committee and the host area committee from Kentucky, West Virginia, and from Indiana South for their tireless work to make this a fun and memorable time for all of us. Thank you. This convention involves many months of planning, but maybe that's appropriate because after all, it's been 100 years in the making, so it was worth it, Yesterday, we kicked off our celebration with a very special centennial walk with hundreds of optimists who were walking through the streets of downtown Louisville, leading to the historical marker which we unveiled at the site of our first Optimist International Convention, literally just blocks from where we are now. We had a wonderful dedication ceremony featuring local leaders from the city and from government here, as well as past Optimist International presidents who shared about our history. So that was fabulous. I hope that you all enjoyed it. How many of you were out there? Because there were, I think, about 500 people. So, well done. It was a lot of fun. I had several people tell me, we ought to do this at every convention from now on. So that'll be the challenge. We'll do that in Chicago next year, right, Adrian? So over the next few days, you'll have a chance to experience outstanding keynote speakers, excellent training, many opportunities for networking and sharing ideas with other optimists. You'll even have a chance to dance through the decades at our President's Banquet and Ball. But I'm particularly excited to welcome, for the first time, our Junior Optimists International, or JOY attendees, who are joining us tonight and for many parts of our convention. I'm glad that you share my excitement in having them here with us. I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with our JOY Board of Directors and Committee this year, and I'm also a local JOY advisor in my own community. This is amazing and a wonderful group of people, truly our future. So, as we kick off our evening here, and we also have our JOY members with us, I thought maybe it would be the thing to do to see if I could get a little selfie with the audience, so bear with me. So you can turn up the house lights. Just a little. Okay, let's see. Can I see you? Wave or something, okay? Everybody stand and smile. All right. We should have some of the Joy Kids run down front or something here. So, all right. Very good. Well, I think right about now there might be something else going on backstage. I'm expecting a little bit of commotion. Oh my gosh. What is this?
Great Scott! What time is it?
7:06.
No, what's the date?
It's June 30th, 2019.
You're telling us we're stuck in 2019?
Yeah, you're here at the Optimist International Convention in Louisville in 2019.
Heavy.
That's gnarly, man.
Hey, is there anyone we can call, like a payphone or a landline?
Well, yeah, this is a phone.
Where are the buttons?
And the cord.
Oh my goodness. Well, what were you doing just now?
You mean when I was doing, I was
The
taking,
thing?
Yeah, well, we call that a selfie. I was taking a picture with all these people who are out here. There's about 1,300 or so people out there.
Selfie.
Yeah, selfie.
Well, we've got to do something. Do you think we can take this audience with us on a trip 100 years back to maybe see where it all started and start with optimists and selfies?
That'd be awesome. Can you do that?
We need something to power it, something with juice.
Maybe some like Pepsi Free or Pib?
Not that, Marty. Maybe we can use your mobile landline
Mobile landline.
to power the flux capacitor, get on the DeLorean, and go. What do you say, Doc?
Great Scott! Let's get out of here.
We gotta go back!
We gotta go back.
All right.
Yeah.
He needs to go now.
All right. We begin our journey through the decades, in the teens, when World War I dominated the lives of so
All
many.
night wearing that.
This was also the time when women got the right to vote in the United States, as well as in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. About the same time, it became difficult to get a drink in the United States because of Prohibition. Yankee Stadium was built in 1925, often referred to as the house that Babe Ruth built. Charles Lindbergh made history flying solo across the Atlantic.
All right. It was late in the 20s that Steamboat Willie made his first appearance with a character called Mickey Mouse. This was the decade known as the Roaring Twenties, which came to a crashing halt when the stock market collapsed in 1929, ushering into the Great Depression.
For Optimist, it started in 1911 when a group gathered in Buffalo, New York to form the first Optimist Club, which was soon followed by Optimist Clubs in Rochester and Syracuse. Not knowing about the clubs in New York, a group independently started an Optimist Club in Indianapolis 5 years later. In turn, the Indianapolis Optimists quickly started new clubs right here in Louisville, St. Louis, Kansas City, Denver, Milwaukee, and Los Angeles. During the summer of 1919, representatives from 11 Optimist clubs attended the first annual international convention right here in Louisville, and Optimist International was born. On the final day of the convention, the delegates elected William Henry Harrison of Louisville to serve as the first international president. Moreover, 8 Optimist clubs immediately joined the new organization. To this day, The logo of Optimist International includes an octagon to honor these original clubs.
The 1920s brought international expansion to the organization with the first Optimist Club in Canada. The Toronto Optimist Club was quickly followed by one in Hamilton, Ontario. Expansion moved to Western Canada with a club in Edmonton in 1925. The first logo for the organization was created in the 20s, and the headquarters moved from Indianapolis to St. Louis. The Railway Exchange building became the permanent home for Optimist International headquarters in 1924. The 1920s also brought the organization a change in its slogan to "A Friend of the Boy," the creation of the Junior Optimist program, and the first oratorical contest won by Carlo Papero of Milwaukee, who was a 12-year-old junior optimist. In 1922, Optimist adopted a 10-line poem called "Promise Yourself" by Christian D. Larson as our Optimist creed.
Moving to the 1930s, we find a lot of people experiencing difficulty in their lives because of the Great Depression and Dust Bowl. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the U.S. president, and his administration created the New Deal, which slowly but surely allowed the country to recover. Overseas, two men began to rise in power, which greatly changed the global landscape. Mao Zedong began 4,000-mile-long march across China. In Europe, a man named Adolf Hitler was named the Chancellor and then the Führer of Germany. One of the most famous live radio broadcasts aired this decade.
It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's fighting, and it's crashing terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky, and it's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. Oh, the humanity.
Scientists discovered Pluto, and the decade ended with Germany invading Poland, ushering the World War II.
We held our first convention outside the United States in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. In California, the Optimist Home for Boys of Los Angeles, now called the Optimist Youth Home and Family Services, became a non-for-profit organization. Life memberships were created in the middle of the decade to help Optimist International remain solvent. To receive a life membership in the organization, members of Optimist clubs pay a one-time fee of $100. The funds were designated for new club building. Right now, we have about 9,500 life members in all of our clubs. The 1930s also saw the first president of Optimist International from Canada, William Tumblin of Toronto. The Optimist movement in Canada also branched out in this decade to Quebec.
Our journey continues through the decades into the 1940s, World War II continued to rage in Europe and the Pacific. The United States instituted a military draft after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of Britain. The war saw the first and only use of atomic weapons with the bombing of Japan.
That's the atomic bomb exploding at Nagasaki. The film was taken in a B-29 many miles away. All of you who see this picture can judge for yourselves the extent of the menace to civilization of this new weapon. Civilized people can only demand that such power be directed not towards their obliteration, but to the benefit of mankind.
Newfoundland became part of Canada, the income tax was established in the United States, and Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, made possible by a couple of optimists named Branch and Ricky Happy Chandler.
World War II impacted many Optimist clubs throughout the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Members jumped in to help the war effort both at home and abroad. New club building efforts had to be suspended because the entire field staff at Optimist International enlisted for military service. International conventions were suspended and replaced with wartime conferences. After the war, the organization learns that President Harry S. Truman was a member of the Kansas City, Missouri Optimist Club before going to Washington. The 1940s also saw the first French-speaking Optimist clubs in Quebec City and Sherbrooke, Quebec. Merci beaucoup. Following the war, new clubs were also started in Mexico and Cuba. In fact, there were 3 clubs in Cuba before the Cuban Revolution. And sailing regattas for youth are held by clubs throughout the world, which were introduced by Optimist Club of Clearwater, Florida.
Paranoia were part of the 1950s as the United States government got bogged down in armed conflict in the Korean Peninsula. While McCarthyism and the fear of communism gripped the country, the St. Lawrence Seaway opened during the 1950s. There was a breakthrough in medicine with the creation of the polio vaccine, and there was a big change on the music scene.
We're hoping for a little bit of Elvis, or maybe not.
Fly with me, let's float down to Peru.
Or a little Sinatra, we'll roll with it, but imagine that it's Elvis because that's the music that would set the stage here. But bus boycotts began in the southern U.S., leading to the start of the civil rights movement. And high above the earth, something called Sputnik circled the planet.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Not a hair out of place.
Like you ever had hair to begin with.
Are you making fun of me because I shouldn't have been in the 50s?
No, you weren't even born then.
Hey, but wait a minute. I learned everything about the 50s from Grease, Happy Days, and reading Dave Bruns' Facebook post.
Let me tell you a little bit something about the 50s. The 50s brought several firsts to Optimist International. This was when the first bicycle safety was conducted. And for the first time, every district had a finalist, had a contestant in the finals of the Optimist Oratorical Contest.
Well, let me add to that. The first Japanese-American Optimist Club was formed in the United States, which is a big deal after World War II. Also that year, the International Convention was held in Montreal, Canada. Talk about mi amor. And the first Youth Appreciation Week was held in the 1950s. Not only that, Optimist International topped the 1,000 club mark with a club in Wisconsin in 1954. That's the home of Schatz Bakery, or brewery, or whatever they make there. The Optimist All-American Football Bowl that year was also held in Tucson, Arizona, and for several years into the late 1950s, leather helmets and all.
I would say that it was happy days for the Optimist in the 1950s.
Let's make like Grease Lightning and get out of here.
Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru. In Llama Land, there's a one-man band and he'll toot his flute for you. Come fly with me, let's take off in the...
Welcome to the 1960s. Russia put the first man in space, and the Berlin Wall was built. The world was on the brink of nuclear war because of the escalation of tensions leading to the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Vietnam War was ramping, and the world mourned after the assassination of President Kennedy. We all needed a little bit of this.
I need somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone help. When I was younger, so much younger than
Congress approved the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act during the 1960s. Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were assassinated, leading to rioting in several major cities. Canada celebrated its 100th birthday in this decade, and this is big news. Yeah. 50 years ago, next month.
Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Several new Optimist programs were launched in the 1960s. One focused on fighting child pornography, while the Stay in School program aimed to reduce the number of high school dropouts. Octagon clubs were created to be a part of the Junior Optimist program, and the FBI and RCMP cooperated with Optimist International to create the Respect for Law program. A new program started to get members and non-members to participate in government affairs, and the organization welcomed its 2000th club in North Carolina. A book called Of Dreams and Deeds, covering Optimist history, was published.
There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be.
Scandal and war were part of the 70s. This was the decade of Watergate, the resignation of President Nixon, and by the middle part of the decade, the end of the Vietnam War. Twice in this decade, long lines would be seen at gas stations because of the Arab oil embargo. And a little after the midpoint of the decade, we started dancing to a different beat.
While the music was changing and we were dancing at the disco, the Camp David peace accords were signed between Israel and Egypt. The first email was sent across the network, and hostages were taken at the U.S. Embassy in Iran.
The decade of the 1970s brought with it a national recognition for optimists. President Nixon signed a proclamation for Youth Appreciation Week. And a few years later, baseball great Stan Musial was declared the honorary chairman for the week. The 1970s saw the launch of the Tri-Star basketball program and expansion of the oratorical contest so that girls could also compete for scholarships. Optimist International started Help Them Hear, a program designed to help people with hearing loss.
This was the decade Optimist International reached 3,000 clubs when one was chartered in Maryland. The 1970s was also the birth of the Optimist International Foundation to operate as a charitable arm of Optimist International. Friend of Youth became the slogan, and an office opened in Montreal to service clubs in Canada. We also teed up for the first time at the Optimist Junior World Golf Tournament, which ultimately led to the Optimist International Junior Golf Championship.
Today I was going into the final round knowing I was tied for the lead, and all I want to do is just play par golf and maybe get a couple birdies in here or there. But I knew it was a tough course and they were very tough conditions, so I just made sure to keep my focus on and just keep plugging away.
It's a great environment, great atmosphere. Everybody is here to have some fun and play good golf.
This is my fourth time to play this tournament, and I'm very happy to finish with first place.
The tournament this year was an overwhelming success. Again, record numbers as always. The importance of these kids playing here at this type of a championship has a lot of rewards. Obviously, the trophies are great, but the recognition, junior golf scoreboard rankings, AJGA rankings. For the older kids, a lot of college coaches are here for the final week. We'll have 30 to 40 college coaches here recruiting. So there's a lot at stake here for these players to come out here and not necessarily win, but compete.
The decade of the 80s, known to many as the decade of excess, brought us assassination attempts on the Pope and President Reagan and the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Women took major steps forward, with Sandra Day O'Connor becoming the first woman on the Supreme Court, and Sally Ride, the first woman in space. Tiananmen Square put the spotlight on China, and the Berlin Wall came down.
Expansion was on the minds of leaders of Optimist International in the 1980s, with the Optimist Club of Kingston, Jamaica becoming the first club in the Caribbean. The organization endorsed the Just Say No program, and in 1983, we began competition for the essay contest. Junior Optimists gathered for their first international convention. The Optimist International Foundation of Canada was formed, and maybe, just maybe, the highest, biggest event of the decade, women were admitted to the organization. And in the first year, 6,000 women joined.
Today is another day to find you. Shine away. I'll be coming for your love again. Take on me. And it's just like the ocean under the moon.
There are many positive developments in the 1990s and a few disappointments. Germany became one nation again as the Iron Curtain came down and communist regimes in Eastern Europe crumbled. Apartheid came to an end in South Africa and the Soviet Union dissolved. Canada, the United States, and Mexico agreed to the North American Free Trade Agreement. But hearts sank on the news of the bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building. Hong Kong became part of China in the 1990s, and the Hubble Space Telescope was put into orbit.
This was the decade for several new Optimist programming and project initiatives. The anti-steroid campaign, entitled Get Real, preceded Safety on Wheels and Always Buckled Kids in the Back Seat. The success of the Help Them Hear program from the 1970s led to the formation of the Communications Contest for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. It was in the 1990s that the first woman became governor of a district, a vice president, and a member of the board of directors. This was also the decade that a Canadian became the president of Joy. It also marked the creation of the Jamaica district of Optimist International and expansion to places like Barbados and Antigua. This expansion was followed a few years later by the creation of the Caribbean district. New clubs were formed this decade in Europe and Asia. In fact, it was in 1990, in the year Ken Monsheen was president, that a record 340 new Optimist clubs were developed.
We entered the new century with a lot of concern over Y2K, which turned out not to be such a big deal after all. There was a shock and disbelief for what happened on the morning of September 11, 2001. Iraq was invaded as part of the Persian Gulf War. The first Latino, Sonia Sotomayor, was appointed to United States Supreme Court. Fidel Castro left office and the Hurricane Katrina made landfall. Maybe one of the biggest societal changes happened in this decade with the creation of Facebook and Twitter. Great Scott, stop checking your phones.
As we turn the corner into the new century, Optimist International focused on the issue of childhood cancer, creating the Childhood Cancer Campaign that included a collaboration that continues to this day with Johns Hopkins University. The junior golf program expanded to include a tournament of champions, and an internet safety program was unveiled. This was also a decade of firsts, as Ronnie Dunn of Kentucky became the first female president of Optimist International. And my friend from Kingston, Jamaica, Theo Golding, became the first president to hail from the Caribbean.
Now I'm floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. I earned my stripes. I went from 0 to my own hero. You held me down, but I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops.
This decade has brought us the Affordable Care Act, the deaths of Osama bin Laden and Muammar Gaddafi, and the rise and fall of the Islamic State. The societal landscape has continued to evolve with the affirmation by the Supreme Court of same-sex marriage. There was the bombing at the Boston Marathon and continued terrorist activity around the globe. Diplomatic relations were restored between the United States and Cuba. And Canada set a record for gold medals at the Winter Olympics in Vancouver.
This has been the decade of the creation of the Optimist 30 Under 30 membership program, the club within a club program, and the first international Joy president to hail from the Caribbean, Giovanni Waugh. The Optimist International Oratorical Competition, our oldest signature program, expanded to at a world championship with increased scholarship opportunities. Childhood health and wellness is the focus for the expanded initiative by the organization, Speaking of expansion, Optimist International has branched out this decade to places like Nepal, Uruguay, China, and Uganda, as well as numerous countries on the African continent. We now have clubs in 23 countries. And this is also the decade that we came together in Louisville, Kentucky, where it all started to celebrate our 100th anniversary.
Well, welcome to our Optimist Centennial Convention. And it is so exciting for us to be able to kick off this celebration with the dedication of a historical marker. Thank you for making all of this possible, for being part of this very special kickoff of our Centennial Convention as we unveil this historical marker so that for many years to come, people walking down this street will understand the roots of optimism right here in Louisville and all of the things that optimists have done to make a positive impact on the rest of the world. I look forward to celebrating, continuing with you over the next several days, and thank you again for being part of our Optimist journey.
In my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it.
All right, well, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed that. And I really want to thank everybody who was willing to play along with this vision of trying to just bring our history to life a little bit. So that gives you a little bit of a taste of our journey and what was going on in the world and what was going on in optimism in each of the decades of our history. And that video that we saw was from the unveiling of our historical marker that just took place last night. So huge thank you to Addison, who did a lot of work to create that just literally overnight, to share it with those who weren't able to be there, and even for those who were, to be able to see it from this angle. So now you have maybe a taste of what's to come over the next few days. Again, sincere thanks to all of you for making the time to be with us. We hope you have a great time with each other, and I hope you can see not only do we have a fabulous past, we have an amazing and very bright future. Thanks for being part of it. Thank you.
This is truly an international organization. While most of us here tonight are from the United States, Canada, Jamaica, or one of the Caribbean nations, Optimist clubs are found in many more countries. At this time, let's recognize all of the countries where we have Optimist clubs with the parade of flags. Tonight's flag bearers are some of the delegates to this year's Junior Optimist Convention. Anguilla, British West Indies, Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, and Canada. Cayman Island, China. France, Ghana, Haiti, Jamaica, Kenya, Mali, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Nigeria, Russia, Senegal, Thailand, Togo, Uganda, Uruguay, the flag of Optimist International, and the flag of the United States of America. Presenting tonight's colors, the Jefferson, Indiana Police Department Color Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the singing of the National Anthem of the United States by the Louisville Thoroughbreds Colts Chorus, followed by the invocation presented by Cheryl Bolton of Southwest Ontario.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare above bursting in the air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts and our minds and our hearts and pray. O Holy One, you created all that is good in this world. As we gather here this week to do the business of Optimist International and celebrate the work we do in our communities and with our youth, we ask that you give us strength and wisdom to face the challenges that we will encounter. Give us enthusiasm as we celebrate the successes of all of our members, clubs, and especially our youth. And give us a cheerful countenance at all times so that we may continue to bring out the best in our youth, our communities, and ourselves. Bless us with these and all your abundant gifts so that we may continue to work towards peace and justice for all as we continue to do good in the world that you so lovingly created. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have an opportunity to enjoy further the Thoroughbreds Chorus. They're a 7-time international champion chorus that is part of the Barbershop Harmony Society. The Thoroughbreds won the international championship in 1962, 1966, 1969, 1974, 1978, and 1981, and in 1984. Welcome once again to the stage, the Thoroughbred Colts Chorus.
If the Lord be willing, be no water rising. If the Lord be willing, and the creek don't rise, the Lord be willing, and the creek don't rise, we will all be together once again. With a howdy and a handshake, we will start congregating. I can't hardly wait until then. When the good time's over and we all go home, we'll know as we're saying our goodbyes that we'll gather back together if the Lord be willing and the creek don't rise. There'll be beans and burgers and kegs of root beer and songs of good cheer in the air. If the Lord be willing and the skies stay fair, everyone here will be there. When the good time's over and we all go home, we'll know as we're saying our goodbyes that we'll gather back together if the Lord be willing and the creek don't rise. So don't you start a-pouting if the day starts clouding. Think of the friends we all adore. You can bet your money that it's gonna be sunny. So start a-praying and praying and praying. Lord, I'm saying, keep the rain away and let us get together like birds of a feather. Back again once more. There'll be beans and burgers and kegs of beer and songs of cheer in the air. If the Lord be willing and the skies stay fair, everyone here will be there. When the good time's over and we all go home, we'll know as we're saying our goodbyes that we'll get together if the Lord be willing and the creek don't rise. Back together if the creek don't rise. The creek don't rise, don't rise.
minutes, 525,000 moments of dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year?
In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter and strife, and 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? 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 Measuring love, love, seasons of love, 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 seasons of love, 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 love,
learned, or times that he cried, in bridges she burned, or the way that she died. It's time to sing a story life of friends. There was a love seasons of how about love? Seasons of love,
Thank you so very much. It is wonderful for us to be here. It's a great honor and privilege to be a part of this Optimist convention. So thank you so much for having us out. We are the Colts. We are a subgroup of the Thoroughbreds, so we all sing in the Thoroughbreds. I direct the Thoroughbreds, but we are just a small fraction of the group, and it's a lot of fun for us to be here. We like to do some more contemporary things on top of the more barbershop arrangements that we do. And so the next two are both of those things. The first one is a little bit more contemporary, and then back to a good old classic barbershop ballad. So we hope you enjoy this next tune made popular by the Monkees. 1, 2, 3.
bow, 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 and that do that, do that, do that, do that, do that. I thought love was only true if for someone else, but not for me. Not for me. Love was out to get me. That's the way it seems. Disappointment came on my dream. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Without a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. Ooh, whoa, I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. I thought a love or a lesson the more I gave, the less I got, the less I got. What's the use of trying? All you get is pain. Then I knew I did sunshine. I got rain. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. The trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. Whoa, I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Oh, what's the dog? The use of trying. All you get is pain. When I needed sunshine, I got rain. Then I saw her. And then I saw her. And then I saw her face. Oh yeah, I'm in love. I'm a believer. night into day. Now I know what tomorrow will bring. If I had my way, dear, forever there'd be a garden of roses for you and for me, 1,001 things, dear, I would do just for you, just for you. Only you. If I had my way, we would never grow old, and sunshine I'd bring every day. You would reign all alone like a queen on a throne. If I had my
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to sing for you, celebrating your 100th anniversary. It is a true pleasure to represent Louisville once again after 100 years, sharing some of our joy, some of the talents that God gave us. And as we go through this following week, the United States will be celebrating their independence. And so we would like to share with you a song that we think exemplifies that and shares some of the pride that we have for our country. Thank you.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, if I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, from Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, hey, that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA. God bless the
Ladies and gentlemen, the Thoroughbreds Colts Chorus.
Wow, they were really outstanding, weren't they? That was just beautiful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I've worked with young people who do a cappella. That harmony was really something, and that falsetto was amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, as I said earlier this evening, Junior Optimists also have their own international convention this week in Louisville, and we're delighted to have them with us for parts of our convention. Tonight, we'd like to introduce you to the current members of the Joy International Board of Directors. And as we meet them, I'd also like to invite our International Joy Chair, Mark Clausen, to join me. Mark?
Julia Cooper from Whitby, Ontario. Maya Gluck from Altamonte Springs, Florida. Miranda Stidham of Kettering, Ohio. Mark King from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Immediate past President Matthew Nasseb of Burlington, Ontario. And ladies and gentlemen, the President of Junior Optimist International, Cole Mullins of Coronado, California.
It is truly an honor to have the members of our Joy Board here to celebrate with us this evening. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, I have worked very closely with this board on at least a monthly basis and was with them for their planning session at the beginning of the year. This is an outstanding group of young people who have a sincere desire to make a difference, and they really want to help all the junior optimists in the local communities, many of whom are here with us tonight. So really, thank you very much for everything that you do. It's important for us to recognize that these young men and women are not only leaders of tomorrow, they're also leaders today, and we would be very wise to listen to them. So, I thank each of them for their service, not only to Joy, but to our entire organization. Congratulations on a job well done. Now, at this time, I would like to invite President Cole to come forward and share a few words with us. Cole?
Good evening, Optimist family. My name is Cole Mullins, and I'm the 2018-2019 Junior Optimist International President. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I'm ecstatic to be here in Louisville to celebrate the 100th year of Optimist International. I'm from Coronado, California, a small beach town right off the coast of San Diego. Living by the beach, I love going to the ocean and enjoying the beautiful views. This helped to influence my decision of the Joy 2018-2019 theme being Riding the Waves of Optimism. This has been an amazing year, and I'm so glad that I was able to lead such an amazing organization. Some highlights from this year include, first and foremost, the Joy Board worked with OI President Rebecca Butler-Mona and implemented a youth version of the Promise Yourself Award. We have had over 39 new clubs and 700 new members from all over the world, amazing service projects, new programs, and the biggest convention since 2006. This past year, there has also been some somber moments. This past November, a Joy alumni, Justin Meek, lost his life in the Borderline bar shooting. I would like to give my support to the Meek family and remind all of you about the amazing individuals that are a part of this organization. Justin exemplified what optimism is and died a hero, letting his positivity and selfless attitude shine through until his last breaths. I would like to tell you about my optimist journey. When I was in 6th grade, I was a young and shy boy who didn't know what his purpose was. I ran track and cross country, but knew that I wanted to get involved in something more. This came through optimism. When I saw Miss Landry and the Joy Club members running the Pasta for Pennies event at the middle school, I knew this was something that I wanted to get involved in. This inspired me to join the club as I was blown away by the impact that a few middle schoolers could have in the world. Once I joined, I was amazed and knew that I had found my purpose. I was encouraged to attend the Joy Convention that was being held in San Diego that year, but was nervous for what the future would hold. And let me tell you, I did not know what I was getting myself into. From the moment I stepped foot in the convention room, I was greeted by some of the nicest people I'd ever met, who showed me what optimism is all about. I was worried that since I was younger, that I would be shunned by the other attendees, but when there I was embraced and met so many role models to look up to. This made such an impact and encouraged me to continue on my optimist path. Through the years, I've attended the last 5 conventions and have served as a club president, a lieutenant governor, and the governor of the California South District. I was elected for International Board in Albuquerque and was able to serve as a director under the wonderful past president, Matthew Nassif. When I decided to run for Joy International President, I was nervous and didn't know if it was the job for me. I worried that I would fail this amazing organization that brought so much joy to my life. But I can tell you today that it was the best decision I've ever made. Optimist has been a vital part of my life where I've had my best memories. I'm still friends with people I met 5 years ago at convention and have made lifelong connections with people from all around the world. One thing that I have found that is amazing about Optimist is that no matter your race, gender, ethnicity, religion, opinion, or place of origin, you will always be embraced by this amazing group of individuals who are the future leaders in our world. Meeting so many of these people over the last few years, I'm confident that we will have a bright future with the young leaders I have met. Can you imagine a world where all youth and adults were optimists? It would be incredible, as the organization has been a positive force on a world that is only growing. My optimist journey has been exciting and fruitful, and I wouldn't have been able to get here without a few individuals. I would first like to thank my parents and my brother, who have pushed me to do my best and have shown me that I can achieve my goals through hard work. I would also like to thank Nancy Wickham and O'Hara Wickham, who have not only supported me throughout my time in Joy, but also have been able to create some lasting memories with our talent show acts. I would also like to thank the Adult Joy board members, Donna Priesta, Sean Mueller, Vicky Butte, Mark Clausen, Sandy Cyphers, and also OI President Rebecca Butler-Mona, as they've provided wonderful insight for my goals and ambitions and have given the support to my whole board to make this a great Joy year. I would also like to recognize Amy Keller for the hard work and dedication she puts into Joy and all the help she's provided to me this year. To my board, I would like to give you a big thanks to all the hard work you've put in this year. You are all strong leaders and your optimism shines through. Julia Cooper, my Broadway buddy who never ceases to amaze me with her strong work ethic. Mark King, the club building king and rap king, who does a remarkable job at building joy clubs and spreading joy into new places. Miranda Stidham, my New York buddy, whose positivity and optimism inspires me every day. Maya Gluck, the volleyball legend, whose hardworking attitude and creativity adds to our board and its decisions. And last but not least, Matthew Nassif, my brother from another mother, who never fails to work his hardest and lights up the room with his positivity. He has shown me what makes a strong and confident leader. Lastly, I would like to give a big thanks to Jennifer Landry. She's been a big role model in my life, and I would not be here without her support and encouragement. Since 6th grade, she has traveled with me to the last 5 conventions and has never ceased to support me however I needed, from running to H&M to get me a black t-shirt for the talent show, or even walking 2 miles down a road in Canada looking in gutters and trash cans for my lost wallet. And by the way, I found that wallet a month later in my travel bag. Sorry, Miss Landry. Thank you to Optimist International and the Optimist International Board, who has provided support for our successes and joy and has given us the resources to succeed in our endeavors. In closing, optimists in the last 100 years have deeply impacted the world and changed the lives of many. I think our future looks bright. So here's to riding the waves to optimism in the next 100 years. Thank you, and have a joyful and optimistic night.
Yeah, I think standing is the right thing, so well done. Cole, thank you so much for your service as our Joy President. It's truly been an honor to serve on the Optimist International Board of Directors with you. And, I think all of you can see why. So I know you have an extremely bright future, and thank you for sharing with us this past year. Okay? It's been amazing. Now I'd like to please welcome to the stage the chair of the International Joy Committee, Mark Clausen from Norfolk, Nebraska, who has some brief remarks, and then we'll read a special proclamation that we'll be presenting to Cole as a token of our appreciation for his service to Joy. Mark?
Good evening, Optimists. It has truly been my privilege to work with a dedicated group of youth and adult optimists who make up the Joy Board and Committee. Joy Board members, under the leadership of President Cole Mullins, have taken their role seriously this year and have proven they are not only future leaders in our organization, Optimist organization, they are leading now by the example they set. Such leadership is not limited to our Joy Board, but happens every day in clubs across North America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia, where Joy members are making a difference and helping spread optimism as a way of life to the next generation. I would encourage you to take advantage of any opportunity to interact with some of the many Joy leaders here in Louisville. If you do, I think you'll find out that Joy brings out the best in youth, our communities, and those of us who have the opportunity to work with them. At this time, I would like to read the following proclamation acknowledging his service to our great organization. On behalf of all Optimist clubs and their members, and on behalf of all youth clubs and their members, let it be known that Cole Mullins is to be commended for his dedication to duties as 2018-19 President of Junior Optimist International. His leadership and positive attitude have been an inspiration to all who have worked with him this past year. He has advanced the cause of optimism by his service to the Joy organization as its president and as a member of the Optimist Board of Directors. May his optimism and positive bearing continue to serve him well in all future endeavors. Presented this 30th day of June 2019 at the Optimist International Convention in Louisville, Kentucky.
Optimist International has been blessed throughout the years with great optimists who have been elected by the general membership to occupy the office of International President. Let's meet those leaders now. The 2017-2018 President, Nick Perlman and Dottie from Atlanta, Georgia. The 2016-17 President, Jim Kondrasek from Monona, Wisconsin. The 2015-16 President, Dave Bruns and Sean from Topeka, Kansas. The 2014-2015 President, Ken Garner and Patsy from Fort Worth, Texas. 2013-2014 President, Ron Huxley and Debbie from London, Ontario. 2012-2013 President, J.C. St. Onge and Marcel from Saint Jerome, Quebec. 2011-2012 President, Jack Cresswell and Sue from Reading, Pennsylvania. 2010-2011 President, Danny Rogers and Jill from Fort Worth, Texas. 2009-2010 President, Mark Shriver and Dr. Patricia Kay from Woodstock, Georgia. 2008-2009 President, Don Sievers and Anita from Jackson, Missouri. 2007-2008 President, Theo Golding and Dolores from Kingston, Jamaica. 2006-2007 President, Ronnie Dunn and Wayne from Frankfort, Kentucky. 2005-2006 President, Dr. Michael Listenberger and Judy from Niles, Michigan. 2004-2005 President, Dwayne Sievers. 2002-2003 President, Bill Teague and Linda from Leicester, North Carolina. 2001-2002 President, Jerry Henderson and Chris from Springfield, Missouri. 2000-2001 President, Bob Garner and Tony from Miami, Florida. 1998-1999 President, James Hubbard and Sherry from Frederick, Maryland. 1997-1998 President, J. Wayne Smith from Independence, Missouri. Past International President, J.C. Boone. 1993-1994 President, Charles Wiles and Judy from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. 1992-1993 President, John Reel, accompanied by son Randy and granddaughter Taylor. 1989-1990 President, Ken Monsheen and Stephanie from St. Louis, Missouri. 1997-1978 President, Don Arnwine from Irving, Texas. 1973-1974 President, Ron Thompson from Gig Harbor, Washington. From 1972-1973, Sandy McCardwell Goodlett and Alicia McCardwell Morrissey, representing her father, Phil McCardwell. And 1964-1965, Anna Ogburn, representing her grandfather, Dr. Carl Bowen. Ladies and gentlemen, the past presidents of Optimist International and their representatives. The leadership of Optimist International is in the hands of a group of Optimist Club members elected by the membership. At this time, let's meet the 2018-19 International Board of Directors and those elected to serve on the board beginning in October. Board member Don Brose from Clarkson, Michigan. Board member Patsy Garner and Ken from North Texas. Board member Sandy Cyphers of Wilmington, North Carolina.
Personality, walk with personality, talk with personality, smile with personality, charm with personality, love with personality, and plus you got a great big
Board member Sandy Larrabee of Essex, Ontario. Board member Nicole Paquette and Daniel O'Connell from Castleman, Ontario.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
Newly elected board member Luc Dubois of Sherbrooke, Quebec.
You say you want a revolution, well, you know.
Newly elected board member Sandy Williams and Ted Gaffin from Yuma, Arizona.
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know.
Newly elected President-elect Mark Weinsoff and Connie from Goleta, California.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Optimist International Executive Director Benny Ellerby. Immediate past President Nick Perlman and Dottie from Atlanta, Georgia. President-elect Adrian, or President-designate Adrian Alcott and Ann from St. Thomas, Barbados. And International President Rebecca Butler, Mona, and Mike from West Des Moines, Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2018-2019 International Board of Directors.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
Please welcome to the stage International Convention Committee Chairwoman Joanne Gansky from Cross Plains, Wisconsin.
I hope everybody's having a good time. So, I just want to remind you that everyone that our first business session tomorrow will be at 2 p.m. in this room. The second business session will be held here on Tuesday morning, beginning at 9 o'clock a.m. If you are a voting delegate, please remember to bring the material given to you by the Credentials Committee, as we will be voting on proposed resolutions in the afternoon. Proposed bylaws amendments will be voted on Tuesday morning at that session. And now let's stand this evening together with the words of our famous Optimist Creed. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind, to talk health, happiness, and prosperity for every person you meet, to make all your friends something in them, and look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true, to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best, to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own, to perfect mistakes of the past and press on to the greater achievements of the future, to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile, to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others, to be too slow to flurry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and to visit the presence of trouble. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the convention. Good night.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better.